Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk About Clutter. I'm your host, Margo, a professional organizer specializing in chronic clutter. And today's episode is for anyone who's ever tried to declutter their home, but felt like they were doing it alone. Maybe your partner's idea of organizing is shoving everything into a closet, or your kids think decluttering is some kind of punishment. Does that sound familiar? Don't worry, you are not alone. Getting your family on board with decluttering can feel like climbing a mountain, but it's not impossible. By the end of this episode, you'll have practical tips to help your family support your decluttering efforts, or at least not sabotage them. All right, let's jump right in. First, let's talk about why your family might resist decluttering. Understanding their perspective can make it easier to approach the situation with empathy. So here are a few common reasons. Your partner might hold on to things because they're worried they need them someday. Maybe this is something you yourself have dealt with in the past. Or your kids may attach sentimental value to every single one of their toys. This is something that I worked on with my daughter quite a bit. It was like, no, I need this. No, I need this when she was very, very little. And it's like, but you haven't played with it in 6 months. And it's like, no, but I might need this one day, right? Kids have a hard time letting go. Look, at the end of the day, adults have a hard time letting go, right? Another reason that your family might be holding on to things is that decluttering can feel like a monumental task, especially for people who don't know where to start. Again, have you been there before? It's easier to avoid it altogether. And what feels like clutter to you might not even register for someone else. So for example, your teen might think that their wardrobe, right? is perfectly functional. I get this a lot with my clients who have teenagers. They will walk into their teenager's room and there are clothing piled up on the floor everywhere. Recognizing these reasons can help you approach the conversation with patience instead of frustration, which is oftentimes how we feel. So now that we kind of understand the resistance, let's talk about solutions, right? You're listening to this episode because you're probably frustrated at what your family is doing. So what can you do about it? So here are some of my top tips for getting your family on board. So first and foremost, and I say this again and again and again to all my clients will call me, and if they have a family, they'll be like, Margo, how do I get my husband to declutter? And we take a nice deep pause there, because the truth is the first thing you should do is you should be starting with your own stuff first. This is called leading by example. If your family sees you making progress and experiencing the benefits of a clutter-free space, they are more likely to follow suit. Now, full transparency here. Is this like gonna work every single time for every single person? No. There have been times where, you decluttered your entire house and your partner is still not following suit, right? This will happen, but I always say start decluttering your stuff first. There is plenty around the house that is yours that you can make the decision to let go of. The next thing, and this is something that's super effective. This is something that I have done with my own daughter. My daughter now declutters on her own. I don't even have to say anything to her. She's just like, all right, well, it's time to purge. It's time to get rid of things. My daughter's 10, and she has been doing this since she was 6. So when it comes to your kids, try making decluttering fun. Turn it into a game. For example, you can set a timer and see who can find the most items to donate or trash in 10 minutes. You can also offer small rewards like extra screen time or choosing the family movie. One of the things that really worked for my daughter early on, she was probably around 4 years old, maybe 4 or 5, is I did the 60-second timer. So I would put 60 seconds on our Alexa, and I would put on some hype music, and I would go, and have her run around to her room and choose a bunch of random items that she wants to part with. And she thought this was like so much fun, right? It became exciting. So get creative, make decluttering fun for your kid. The third thing that's really effective is you want to focus on shared spaces first. Start with areas that everyone uses, like the living room or the kitchen. Explain how decluttering these spaces will make life easier for the whole family. So for example, finding things faster, right? Or having enough space to relax or host guests or host friends, right? I mean, how often are we frustrated, or right? How often is your partner frustrated that he or she can't find the remote control, right? But if you declutter and you demonstrate by example just how functional a space is and how we decrease feelings of overwhelm and frustration because now we can find things, again, leading by example, you're allowing your family to experience, not just telling them the benefits of a clutter-free space, but you're giving them the opportunity to experience it for themselves. And the hope is that little by little, even if it's just one random item a day, they will follow suit. The next thing that I encourage you to do is to communicate benefits, not blame. So instead of saying, "You are so messy," why not say, "Wouldn't it be great if we can find what we needed without searching for it?" Frame the conversation around the positives. It's very easy to blame, to yell, to scream. And I get it. I've been guilty of this myself. But the problem is that type of punishment, right? It's not effective and it's not sustainable. What is sustainable is positive reinforcements. What is sustainable is conversations around not just saying, get rid of all of these things or declutter that bin, but explaining why it's important to do so and what are the benefits to the person if they do it. The next thing is you want to respect their boundaries. Don't force your partner or your kids to get rid of things that they are not ready to part with. I can't say this enough. Chances are there was a time in your own life when it was difficult for you to declutter. How did you feel if somebody would have been like, "Get rid of this, declutter, you have too much stuff," right? You weren't ready. And it's very possible that your partner and your kids are just not ready yet either. And again, pushing, it's just not going to work. Focus on what you can control and encourage them to declutter at their own pace. Even declutter with them if they're open to it. Also important is to give your family a sense of ownership. Let each family member decide how they want to organize their space. Offer guidance if needed, but avoid micromanaging. Yeah, and I see this a lot where we have now decluttered and now, we've organized and we kind of feel like we know what's best. This is really a conflict that comes up again if you have teenage kids and you're trying to tell your girl like how to organize her closet and she's like, "No, I don't want this," and "No, this is my favorite dress," or "No, I need this here," right? Have this be a collaboration, right? Where they kind of decide what organization and what type of decluttering works for them. And sometimes it's trial and error, right? Like let them go at it, even if you know it's wrong or it's not going to be functional or effective, let them give it a try. And they will realize, hey, you know what? Maybe mom or dad were right. Like this is not the best way to do it. And then finally, you want to set realistic expectations. Not everyone will have the same level of enthusiasm for decluttering as you do, and that is okay. You want to celebrate small wins and you want to be patient. Congratulate them and celebrate with them when they declutter, right? Positive reinforcement will get you much farther than punishment. So what happens if you've kind of tried all these different things and you're like, "Margo, it's still not working. Like my family is still not on board." That can be so frustrating. So what can you do? Control what you can. Focus on decluttering your own belongings and the shared spaces you have authority over. And let go of the need to control their stuff. I know that is incredibly challenging, but if you find yourself constantly going, "Declutter this, declutter this, declutter this, declutter this," and they're just not doing it, maybe we want to kind of take a pause and we want to focus. We don't want to feel helpless, right? And we want to focus on what we can control. You also want to set boundaries, right? If clutter in shared spaces bothers you, create some ground rules. For example, no clutter on the kitchen counter, or shoes have to go in the designated bin, right? Kind of decide what your priorities are for the spaces, especially the shared spaces in your home. I mean, the other thing is compromise. If your partner insists on keeping certain items, designate a specific area for them, like a bin or a closet. That way, the clutter is contained. This is something that I actually see again and again and again with my clients. For some strange reason, a lot of our partners like to throw their keys, their mail, their whatever on the kitchen counter. And I know that that could be so overwhelming and annoying for a lot of us, especially if you've invested time and energy into decluttering your countertop and all of a sudden your partner's like continues to dump stuff on there. So maybe you've tried again and again and again to tell him or her, stop, please stop, but they keep doing it. So my recommendation always is get a bin, put a little bin on the kitchen counter and have them dump all of their random miscellaneous items into that bin. I understand it's not the perfect solution, but at least all of their clutter is now contained. And the other thing, something to do for yourself, is you want to create your own sanctuary. Even if the whole house isn't clutter-free, you can create a calm, organized space for yourself. Maybe it's your bedroom, maybe it's your home office, or even a small corner of the living room. I have a beautiful and comfortable reading nook in my living room. And I love to cuddle up in it, right? I love to sit on it. I have a cup of coffee. I read my book. It's like my Zen space. So I don't know, think of creating your own. So here's the bottom line. Decluttering when your family isn't on board can be incredibly challenging, but it's not impossible. It does require some patience and communication and time investment from you. But start with yourself. Communicate the benefits and respect their boundaries. And if all else fails, remember that you can create pockets of calm in your home, even if everything isn't perfect. If this episode resonated with you, check out my free resources. I actually have something I call the Ultimate Decluttering Guide. It's completely free. It's wonderful. It walks you through what to declutter in every single room of your home. I will leave a link to it in the episode show notes. Thank you so much for listening. As always, good luck on your decluttering journey, and remember to be good to yourself.